Hello and welcome to Granada Reports.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
A nurse says sorry to the families whose babies were targeted by Lucy Letby for not acting sooner when concerns were raised about her. We'll be live with the latest from the public inquiry.
The search for a paddleboarder who went missing at a remote reservoir goes into its second day.
Taking important steps towards change, how Nathaniel's mission is helping take the pain out of catching the train.
Everybody should have the right to use the trains, whether you're a wheelchair user, whether you've got a walking impairment, whether you're a parent with a buggy really.
Rihanna of the Rovers. Could the global superstar and her boyfriend be behind a possible takeover at Tranmere?
They answered this country's call to come and work, and they brought their love of cricket with them. Our first report for Black History Month goes behind the scenes at possibly the region's oldest Caribbean club.
And weather-wise, there's been a lot of cloud around for a lot of the day. We can blame a hangover of Storm Ashley for that, but what is set to happen next, I'll tell you in just a bit.
So first tonight, the latest from the public inquiry into the crimes of Lucy Letby. And a senior nurse has apologised to the families of the babies who died for not acting sooner when a doctor raised the alarm about the number of deaths which occurred while she was on duty.
Well, the hearings heard that a consultant raised what he called the Lucy issue, but his concerns were dismissed as a coincidence and confidence remained that Letby was a good nurse.
Well, Letby's currently serving 15 whole life sentences for murdering 7 babies and trying to kill 7 more at the Countess of Chester Hospital between 2015 and 2016. Our correspondent, Mel Barham's been at the public inquiry in Liverpool. And Mel, it does seem there was an unwillingness among some staff to accept there was a link between Letby and babies suddenly falling ill.
Yes, that is right. Anne Murphy was the lead nurse of Children's Services at the time of Letby's crimes, and she said she had no concerns about Letby, despite some consultants raising the issue that she'd been on duty for a number of unexpected deaths. She told the inquiry that it was supposition that Letby was unfortunately there on those days, and there was no evidence that she was causing harm to the babies. She told the hearing that she didn't feel it was fair to accuse a nurse of wrongdoing with no proof.
If anything had been brought up in the baby's post-mortems, then that probably would have made a difference. But, you know, to all intents and purposes, this was an excellent neonatal nurse. Why on earth would she be doing something? What could she be doing?
Well, she was asked why she hadn't called the police or escalated the concerns further. She did apologise to the family, saying in hindsight she should have done something earlier.
From my perspective, I should have done something earlier myself, but I really didn't.
Thank you.
I couldn't understand why, you know, what was happening. So, I have to apologise to all of those families from my perspective that, I feel that I certainly failed those children by not doing something sooner. So I am sorry for that.
So, Mel, you heard from Anne Murphy, the lead nurse there. Then it was the turn of her manager to give evidence as well.
Yes, that's right. Karen Rees was the head of nursing of urgent care at the Countess of Chester, so a very senior manager. She told the hearing that she believed the concerns voiced by consultants was personal, and instead she believed the ward manager, who said that Letby was a good nurse. She said there was very much a them and us situation between doctors and nurses, and she was inclined to side with the nursing managers. It was described as tribal allegiance. She was asked repeatedly why despite having these concerns raised with her, that she didn't remove Letby from the unit or call the police. She said that she felt like she was being bullied and intimidated by one of the doctors into doing so. She said she questioned why the consultants, weren't going to the police themselves. She spoke about many meetings with senior staff and executives talking about what to do about Letby. She was asked whose needs were actually paramount in those meetings.
Clearly, Lucy Letby's and her parents.
There's no reference to the safety of babies at all in that meeting, is there?
No.
Do you think, looking back, you, in common with Erin Powell, got too close to Lucy Letby and her position?
I can only answer for myself. I think the answer to that is yes, because I was tasked to meet with her on a near weekly basis for nearly 2 years. And as I said previously, witnessing her distress, yes, I acknowledge that.
Mel, aside from the public inquiry, Letby's back in court later this week, isn't she?
That's right. On Thursday, Letby will go back to the Court of Appeal to challenge that conviction from July of this year, where she was found guilty of 1 count of attempted murder. That was in relation to one of the babies, a little girl who we can only identify as child K. Her first appeal, of course, failed.
OK, Mel, thank you.
In other news today, and emergency services are still searching for a man who fell into the water while paddleboarding near Oldham. Police were called to Dovestones Reservoir through reports of 2 people going into the water on Sunday afternoon. 1 person was rescued and treated by paramedics. Police say they are doing everything they can to find the missing man.
2 teenagers have been arrested as part of the continuing investigation into violent disorder on Merseyside. The boys, aged 14 and 16, are suspected of being involved in riots which broke out in the wake of the stabbing of 3 little girls in Southport in July. It brings the total arrests made by Merseyside police so far to 136, with 94 people charged and 73 people sentenced.
Windermere and District Food Bank is appealing for donations of hiking boots. The centre has served its community for the past 13 years and say donations have fallen off the cliff in the last 12 months. They add boots, sleeping bags and warm clothes can save lives in the winter months.
Manchester band Roller say they're donating every penny from their upcoming gigs in November to help save Salford Lads Club. The historic youth club is facing closure. It needs to find £250,000 of emergency funding by the end of November.
So we are putting on a big show at Salford Lads Club, Friday 15th of November. All the proceeds will be going to the club. Hopefully we can have a really good time while trying to keep the doors open for it.
Now here's a startling statistic for you. Did you know that half of all railway stations in Greater Manchester don't have step-free access? Well, that, as you can imagine, is proving to be a big barrier to travel for lots of people, many of whom have disabilities.
Well, next tonight we're meeting Nathaniel Yates, who has cerebral palsy and has been campaigning for better accessibility for years. And at one of the busiest stations in the area, there is now some good news. Our correspondent Andy Bonner has more.
Nathaniel Yates knew something had to change when he fell on steps at his local station. But when nothing did happen, he began campaigning. Only then did he learn only 45% of stations in Greater Manchester don't have steps.
What did you think when you heard those numbers?
Disgraceful, because obviously I think everybody should have the right to use the trains, whether you're a wheelchair user, whether you've got a walking impairment, whether you're a parent with a buggy really, because it should be for all, access should be for all, and I thought it's pretty poor that half of the stations don't have the step 3 access in Greater Manchester.
Levenshulme station is one of Manchester's busiest, yet there are 2 flights of steps to each platform. Here, as elsewhere, authorities have to bid for funds to make changes. Thankfully, it's next on the list. Transport for Greater Manchester says the railway station accessibility is a key priority in the city region. It says that it has assessed all stations in the area and drawn up a list of priorities for when funding becomes available.
Today I'm here at Woodsmart.
Nathaniel's been highlighting problem stations on social media.
If people can't get in and off the train, it's no good.
Woodsmore Station is also on the list for improvements. It's near Stockport's Stepping Hill Hospital, yet only one platform is step-free.
The will is there, but we do need money to back it up. It's quite shocking that in this day and age, so many stations don't have access ramps for people who need them, because public transport is key when it comes to people accessing services, accessing shops, and also meeting friends and family.
There are so many stations on the list. This is going to take some time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be 2070 at the current rate if we keep going, that's what I've heard. So maybe it'll be in my lifetime. I might be an old man by then, but you know, there's lots more work to do. This is a great victory that Levenhume's on the list. Levenhume's top of the list now, and hopefully it gets funding. But this is a great victory for me and the Levenhume community.
Let's take your time.
This is a hand.
Take your time.
Nathaniel's enlisted the help of Manchester's mayor, and he says he won't rest until the city stations are accessible for all. Andy Bonner, ITV News, Levenshulme.
Shocking, isn't it? Absolutely shocking. Well done, Nathaniel. You're doing a fantastic job. Right, well, next tonight, it's been exactly a year since we lost one of the greatest footballing legends of all time. Manchester United's Sir Bobby Charlton helped United to European Cup success in 1968, following World Cup glory with England 2 years earlier.
Yeah, he died a year ago today at the age of 86. And since his death, the Sir Bobby Charlton Foundation has continued his humanitarian work, both around the world and closer to home.
Well, a little earlier I spoke to Jane Bateman from the foundation and Sir Bobby's former teammate and great friend Alex Stepney. They shared their memories of one of our greats.
He was humble off the pitch, very humble off the pitch, lovely to get on with. But once he went over that white line, there was 110% performance every game. You know, it was about winning. He was a winner, a tremendous winner, and that's how he came to win all these wonderful trophies and be so adored around the world. I mean, wherever you went, you get in a taxi and people say, where are you from? And you say Manchester and Bobby Charlton. That's it, everywhere in the world. So,
Jane, just tell us a little bit, how's it been at the foundation? Because you've lost your figurehead, haven't you?
Many people knew of Bobby, the great footballer, the gentleman, but not so many people knew that there was this humanitarian side to him and that he even had a charity. So it's been a privilege, really, to be able to tell that story about Bobby over the last year.
And there's some incredible work going on in Cambodia at the moment, isn't it, that the foundation are doing around prosthetic limbs for those who've been injured by landmines.
What hurt Bobby the most was when he met children and young people who'd gone out to play football and come back with life-changing injuries. So he met some of those children and some of those young people who'd lost an arm and lost a leg, and it broke his heart, and he couldn't turn his back on them, and that's where the charity started.
And you're doing a lot of work in Ukraine as well, aren't you?
We sponsor 3 safe play hubs near the front line. And these are places where children can come together, they can play football, they can socialise with each other, they can have fun. And that for Bobby was one of the most important things, that a child should be able to play football safely.
Well, he said, didn't he, that he thought that the greatest gift you could ever give to a child was a ball. And Alex, you're working a lot, aren't you, with Street Reds, with the foundation and with Manchester United. Tell us a little bit about that. It's in Moss Side, isn't it?
Well, I was offered during the summer to watch what's the progress that they've made the foundation. They were really letting them use their talent, because you never know what's going to come out of some of these kids. I mean, go back to Bobby, I think, probably in the early 80s when he had his own soccer schools, and look who came out of that. You know, I mean, obviously.
David Beckham, didn't he? Yeah.
You know, that's it, you know. So, and other players as well, you know, came through to play professional, because that's what these kids want to be. Especially young girls now, they can play professional football. You know, I think it's fantastic.
How do you think he'd feel knowing that you guys are carrying on all of his great work?
Bobby would love it. Bobby would love it. Like I said before, he was a humble guy. I mean, I remember when they opened the South Stand, to call it the Sir Bobby Charlton Stand at Old Trafford. well, it's not Old Trafford now, it's Theatre of Dreams, because he named it the Theatre of Dreams. And he actually said to me on the pitch, he said, I don't deserve this. Now, listen, what did he win? What did he do? And what did he go through, after Munich and that, which was... He never spoke about it, but we would never ask him about it because we knew that. But when we won that European Cup in '68, the emotions for Bobby came out, absolutely.
And is it right that after that game, he went and just spent time by himself? He didn't celebrate with everyone because he just wanted to remember those.
We were obviously staying in London because it was a Wednesday night at Wembley. And there was a big dinner afterwards, like you with the family and everything, but Bobby went to bed. The emotion was too much for him.
It must be such an emotional day for all of you guys and for Sir Bobby's family today as well. I'm sure you'll be raising a glass to him tonight. What are you going to think of when you do that? What memories do you think are going to come to you when you toast him later?
I think when we won that European Cup in '68, because I was very fortunate to be behind him when he received the trophy at Wembley, there was tears in his eyes then, and that was it basically, because we showed that trophy to everybody, as fans, and we know the families from Munich were there because we had Bill Fawkes playing, and obviously Sir Matt Busby was the manager, and they were all in the crash. That when the final whistle went, each and every one of us, went to Bobby, Matt, and Bill Fawkes because we knew how much that meant to them. It was for the '58 team.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your memories today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly was an emotional day for those who knew and loved Sir Bobby.
I can't believe it's a year. It feels like it's just flown by.
Absolutely whizzed past. Let's go on to sport now, and news every Liverpool fan was hoping for. Hello, Chris.
Yes, after months of speculation over his future, Virgil van Dijk says he has opened talks with Liverpool over a new contract. His current deal runs out at the end of this season.
Well, it's not the last fixture of the season, so that of course is important. Winning that way we are not used to. Much like other teams that have the talent, we are not winning games in the last minutes, and today what happened, the sense of, or the flavour of winning this way is so nice.
This is in my opinion, our biggest test, to play Champions League and Premier League, the hardest games, 3 days in a row. That's what City did last season, that's what Arsenal did, both of these clubs did for 2 years in a row now, and you saw 2 years ago how difficult that was for us.
Well, it was one of those rare weekends when all 4 of our North West Premier League clubs won, which meant relief for Manchester United boss Erik ten Hag. Now, Tranmere Rovers have told Granada Reports they're refusing to comment on speculation that the club is about to be bought by American rapper A$AP Rocky. He's the boyfriend of pop superstar Rihanna and believed to be part of an investment group led by Donald Trump's ex-lawyer, Joe Tacopina. So we could soon see them in the stands of Prenton Park. They're reportedly looking to buy an 80% stake in the club worth £15 million. Rovers, who won 2-1 at Bromley at the weekend, are currently 16th in League Two. It's now 2 months since Burnley tasted defeat in the Championship. They were 2-0 winners at Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend. Blackburn Rovers climbed into the playoff places with a 1-0 win over Swansea, and Preston moved away from the foot of the table by beating Coventry 1-0. In League One, Stockport County were held to a 1-1 draw by Charlton. Bolton Wanderers boss Ian Evatt began his touchline ban watching from the TV gantry as his team beat Burton Albion 2-1. There were defeats for Blackpool and Wigan, while Crewe failed to join the League Two playoff places after being held to a 1-1 draw by Salford City. Elsewhere, Morecambe and Fleetwood both lost, but Accrington's resurgence continued. They beat Barrow 1-0 for their 3rd straight win. Manchester City have moved top of the Women's Super League. They went a goal behind to Aston Villa, but scored twice in the second half to win 2-1. Manchester United's 100% record is over. They drew 1-1 at Brighton. Elsewhere, Everton lost, while Liverpool were held to a 1-1 draw by Crystal Palace.
Getting that winning feeling. FOW, sponsors of the Granada Sport Report.
Finally to cricket, and Lancashire have a New England captain to celebrate. Liam Livingstone will lead his country for the first time in the one-day series in the West Indies. The all-rounder takes over the captaincy from his Lancashire teammate Jos Buttler, who will miss the three-match series with a calf injury. Buttler will return as captain, though, for the T20 series. They need him in that team. He's great.
Never mind the cricket, what about Rihanna at Tranmere?
It's fantastic, isn't it? Her first song's Ponder Replay. What about Ponder FA Cup Replay?
Yay!
Come on.
If the deal does go ahead, Chris, your mission, should you choose to accept, is to secure that first interview.
I like that mission. I like it.
He will do it as well. She'll definitely need her umbrella, Ella at Prenton Park. OK, enough. Stop.
Here's Mary with what's coming up in the evening news.
The King is heckled in Australia over colonialism.
Give us what you stole from us! Our bones, our skulls, our babies!
And Indigenous senators protest in Parliament at a reception for Charles and Camilla. Here, John Stapleton reveals his diagnosis with Parkinson's disease. And new airport rule in New Zealand that has people up in arms. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30. OK, and finally tonight, to those who answered this country's call to come and work and who brought their love of cricket with them.
Yeah, and the first of a special of a series of reports for Black History Month, I visited what's thought to be the region's oldest Caribbean club.
This was ideal cricket, a one-day game between crack teams with nothing serious at stake.
The summer of 1950, and England are beaten by the West Indies in a test match. England's batsmen face a fearsome bowling attack who inspired a generation of West Indians who made Britain their home in the post-war years. Jalgo's Cricket Club was formed in Preston in the years that followed. A team of West Indian cricketers who were part of one of the country's oldest Caribbean communities. Lewis Walker was a founding member. He told me about a team who took their local league by storm.
This was our first serious match. We were knocking about all the other times, but on this particular day, it was a real thing. We started in the 3rd division. We worked our way up to 1st division. It took some doing. We only had, when we started, about 11, 12. But as the word gets around, more and more lads get to know about it, and they start to come along and watch, and then they join. And then when we start to play properly, we were getting supporters, which they never had. It was just the 11 players from each side that used to go in the park, play and go home.
The search for a home for Jalgos would take more than a decade. But almost half a century later, Lancashire's last remaining Caribbean social club still stands on a back street in Preston. Ivy, Norma and Nellie have been involved since those early days and say the club means more to them than cricket.
I didn't like cricket. I never liked cricket, so I would not go and watch them. But I know my husband was a, big cricketer.
Well, I had to wash them on those white trousers with all green on it, so I mean, well, I've been on a lot of trips with them. We even went to Wales and all over. They're playing cricket. But I mean, it wasn't nice when they got beaten. We have to come back to Preston because it was misery on the bus.
And at a club that's seen many changes in its almost 50 years, there are some traditions that stay the same.
My son comes in and plays dominoes. My mum's taught him how to play, and he plays dominoes now with the elders, and he loves it, and he's as loud as them, and it's that kind of thing what keeps it going. And he wants to come here and do that. So to me, it's the spirit and the spirit of the club, as you can see tonight. And we've got people from everywhere coming in, different generations coming in. We've got obviously Union tonight, games, chess team upstairs, dominoes downstairs. We've got everything.
It's a legacy. It's important to be respectful to our elders who worked so hard to have this building here in the first place, and it's important for our own self-esteem and self-worth that we can see that we can achieve something as good as this.
I know it's surprising how many people come in and say, "Oh, we thought this place was shut down," but once they know that it's open, they come back, and that's the main thing.
The hope now is that Django's will continue to inspire generations to come. A club steeped in Lancashire history, focused firmly on its future.
Oh, Ivy, Norma and Nellie, I tell you what, I bet they run that place, don't they? Lovely report. Here's James with the weather.
Mum, wet wipes, toilet or bin?
Bin. Why?
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there, good evening. West was best for seeing a little bit of autumn sunshine. There was, though, a lot of cloud, and we can still blame Storm Ashley for this. That front had a bit of a wave on it. It threw quite a lot of cloud, even into the northwest. As far as what happens next, that pushes away. This little front sneaks through tomorrow. Hopefully not too much in the way of rain, but really the next few days dominated by high pressure, so nice warm air coming up from the south. Eventually, this little feature here bringing some windier and wetter conditions Thursday night into Friday. But at least this evening, not looking too bad for a while before that front starts to show its hand. A few showers on there, one or two sharp ones potentially, but it is weakening as we head through tomorrow. Temperatures on the fairly mild side, double figures in many places where you've got that cloud, even in rural spots, probably in high single digits. Through tomorrow then, that front pushes its way down towards the southeast. We start to see brighter conditions, one or two showers in the mix, but essentially a dry and bright afternoon. And whilst temperatures on paper are much like today, 13 to 15 Celsius, a bit of late autumn sunshine certainly feeling very nice indeed. As far as what happens next then, sort of rinse and repeat. Similar temperatures up to about 15 Celsius. That breeze coming up from the south-southwest there. Yes, you'll get a bit of cloud from time to time, but hopefully some good sunny spells in between. Bright start on Thursday, turning increasingly cloudy as that front approaches, but again 15 Celsius your high, and then that clears overnight. Few showers around, a little bit cooler, but hopefully some brightness around.
Cleaned up well.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
If that Tranmere sale does happen, you can continue with your terrible Rihanna puns, can't you?
I can. There's plenty more where they came from.
I bet there are.
Plenty more. Good night.